when we do a lot of public speaking, because we want people to know, look, when he started off, he couldn't talk. Now he's a public speaker.
Welcome to another episode with your host, Robert E. Hansen, psychic medium, author, and public speaker.
How are you, man? Good?
Good.
Father and son team, it's great.
Yeah, once I can work together.
Yeah, it's so nice. You know, my office had told me this was going to be an interview. I don't want to do an interview. I just want to talk to you guys as two men. Is that okay?
Okay, I thought that you had a podcast we're going to interview.
Well, we do. It is from my podcast. Oh, that's what it is. But I think it's easier if we just chat rather than I have a question, you have an answer. I have a question, you have an answer. You know what I'm saying?
Actually have a human conversation.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think I solo, like I lay low.
You lay low?
Nice and easy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice and easy. Glide. That's the way it works. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and what wanted me so much to meet you both. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Sure.
That'd be great.
I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Anchor program in the town of Hempstead. Have you ever heard of that program?
Well, we know about the Camp Anchor.
Camp Anchor. That's
We've been down and visited there. We made socks with them.
oh, did you?
Yes.
Okay, so let me help you out a little bit with this. I'm a little older. I started working for the town of Hempstead in 1967.
There we go.
Wow.
It's
Long time-
okay.
Yeah, a long time ago. And
Don't
at that,
ask me every day how old I am.
yeah, well, I'm older than Daddy John, I think, you know, so.
But my mom way older than my dad.
No, she's older than me.
So I'm working for the town of Hempstead. And again, this is 1967. And at that time, the boss of the town, his name was Ralph Queso. You probably don't know that name. I don't know.
And then he went on and became county executive.
Yes, sir. He had a family member, I think it was his granddaughter, that had Down syndrome way back. And when he started to look around the town, there was no programming for these terrific young people who had these unique challenges, you know. And it gave birth to the Anchor program. Now, the word anchor, I don't know if you know what it stands for, but it means answering the needs of children, right? With handicaps. I hate that word. I like handy-capable. I prefer to say handy-capable than handicapped, through organized recreation. And that program began in a high school gymnasium in Baldwin, New York. And then they went ahead and they built the ice skating rink at Newbridge Road Park, where I was working as a young college student, and the program began to blossom. And I said, this is going to be for children with challenges. And they said, yes. I said, I'm all in. This is right up my alley. I just fell in love with the whole thing. And I was privileged to work around Anchor from the very, very beginning. I saw it develop, and then I shifted into other athletic endeavors. I went full circle back, and I'll tell you why, John. I have 4 children, right? I have 4 children. And my oldest son is on the autistic spectrum.
Okay.
See?
How old is he?
He'll be turning 30 in September.
And what's his name?
His name is Bobby, like my name. And he's getting married in 4 weeks.
Ah.
Nice.
This is such a cool story. I got to tell you guys the story. So here I am now. I was still around the Anchor program. I was still watching it.
Right.
I watched them build the Lido Towers. I watched them build the mushrooms. I don't know if you guys remember Joe Lentini. Did you guys know Joe? He was the man that really took over the Anchor program. He just retired like 2 years ago.
I don't know him.
He's like one of my heroes. He's passionately devoted to these children and the young adults, of course. And they began to build the pools and they expanded out and out. And now it's really nationally recognized, you know.
Right.
So here comes along my son, and everything was typical till he was about 18 months old, John. And my son never spoke. And he began to flap and he wouldn't look at you. And I said, oh my goodness, we have to have this checked out. And sure enough, he was the diagnosis was he was in the autistic spectrum. And we were pretty nervous because he didn't say a word till he was almost 7.
Wow.
We didn't think he was ever going to talk. So my wife was great. The school teachers were great. I hope I did a little bit to help. And the next thing you know, we're standing in the kitchen and he says one morning, "Hi, Mom." I said to my wife, Kate, I said, "Did you hear what I just heard?" I said, "Yeah, he spoke." And now he's getting married to a typical woman who works in banking. They've been going out for 8 years. She lives with us now, and they're getting married on July 22nd.
Oh.
So it was so odd because I was drawn to working with beautiful young people, not knowing that I would get one of my own.
There you go.
Yeah, it's awesome. My son Bobby now works for the town of Hempstead at Newbridge Road Park, where I began 50 years ago. He's now working there as we speak right now.
Right.
So that's the backdrop. Now, I'm going to give you another little bit, then I'll shut up and I'll let you guys jabber here a little bit. I also did martial arts, karate, for 50 years. I studied in Japan. I lived in Japan 4 different times, and I owned 4 schools here on Long Island. I had a club in Wantagh. I'm sure you heard of Wantagh, of course.
Yes.
And I made a decision to open up a program for children with special challenges. Newsday got a hold of this, and they put me on the front page.
Oh, cool.
All hell broke loose, like you guys have with the sock stuff. I have with the, and for years and years and years, I had all of these different types of wonderful kids come in to see me. You know, some in wheelchairs, some with Down syndrome, some with cerebral palsy. I had it for years. I did it years and years. That was my passion. And I've since retired from it. I sold the club. And then I eventually wound up working for the Helen Keller Center for blind children. So I've always had this pull in my heart and soul for these beautiful young people. I get so much out of them. I love them so much. And when I heard of John, when I heard about your story, I said, we got to talk to this guy because not many people can do what this guy's doing, you know, with your dad's help, you know. And I know how much you love your father. I know it. I've read about it. I can see it in your eyes. And I'm the same with my son. I kiss my son all day long. I'm always hugging him, always kissing him. I'm always saying, because he's really, I mean, it's just awesome. So if you don't mind, I'm going to shift off of me yakking away here, but I wanted to give you an understanding of why I wanted this conversation. I have such great respect for both of you. But John, if you don't mind, Mark, if I can speak with John a little bit. John, could you tell me why the socks? Why not the ties? Why not hats? Why not jackets? Why socks?
Why socks?
Why socks?
Yeah.
It's fun. It's colorful. It's creative. It always let me be me. I want to create socks my whole life. And I've been looking around socks, and I come out here.
We used to drive around looking for socks for John.
Right.
So when he suggested, you know, he said we should go into business, and then when he suggested socks, it seemed pretty simple to me that, well, if John loved these socks that much, surely other people would too, and we could find our tribe.
Oh, it's so great. Now, I got to ask you this because I have a few questions, if you don't mind. What was the very first sock you designed, John?
The very first one is I found it from awareness socks. I did a 3 Heart 21. 321 a day is March 21st. That day is a World Dungeon Day, and I raised the money to the to the National Dungeon Society.
But we should put it in some content.
Content, yeah.
Right. So what day did we open?
We opened on a Friday, December 9, 2016.
And we didn't know what to expect, right? We went to go with the lean startup route of We
Right.
didn't bother with the detailed business
Absolutely.
plan. It was, let's get something up and running and we'll see.
Right.
So
Right.
we had built a website. We got some inventory. When we started, we were only selling other people's socks.
Oh, okay.
We're bootstrapping. So, you got to make do with what you have.
Of course.
The only marketing we did was to set up a Facebook page. I would take out my cell phone and we made videos. And who do you think was in those videos?
I talk about socks.
Oh, you're kidding.
Sock, more socks.
Now, so it started with a bang. We got a bunch of orders. We're in Huntington. Most of them were local. What'd you do with those first orders?
I do a home deliveries.
We got red
Oh,
boxes.
delivery. Is that
We
what
got
you
red
said?
boxes. We put the socks in the box, looked at it and said, it needs something else. So we added, we put in a thank you
I
note.
put a sticky note, I wrote, and I put in a candy.
We got bags of Hershey's
Kisses,
Kisses, right?
Yes.
Poured them in the box,
Oh,
loaded
cool.
up the car,
So great.
drove around, and he knocked on doors delivering the socks.
Right. And the customer response, they love the socks, and they took a picture of photos, and share it on social media, and I spread the word.
We had customers ordering again just to get John to come back to their house.
Yes.
And there was some funny, now,
Isn't this
I
great?
call you Robert or Bob.
Either one. Robert's fine.
So Robert, you can appreciate this. There's some nights we're out after 10 o'clock at night and he's knocking on doors saying, just John with your socks. Don't
Who's this
shoot.
crazy guy at my door? 10 o'clock at night with socks.
But what happened, so in 2 weeks, we shipped 452 orders. And we said, okay,
Wow.
we got something here.
Wow.
We could grow it. So now we move into January. It's just the two of us knuckleheads. And we learn firsthand, nobody buys anything in January because they spent all their money at the holidays.
Oh, that's right.
And we're trying to figure out, okay, what can we do? And that's when we learned that people celebrated World Down Syndrome Day by wearing crazy socks. You would have thought we knew that ahead of time, but we're not that
Yeah.
smart. So remember, at that point, we're only selling other people's socks. So we go looking for a Down syndrome themed sock that we could sell. Nobody made one. But my partner's response was,
And I want to create one. I want to make one.
he says, Dad, we'll just make one.
Yeah.
And he designed it.
And you designed it.
He designed it. And then, okay, we're getting that made and we're going to celebrate people with Down syndrome. Giving back right from the beginning has always been important to us. So we
Yes.
called up the National Down Syndrome Society and said, listen, we're going to sell these socks. We're going to give you money from every pair. And we also called up a group in Nassau County. Used to be called the Association for Children with Down Syndrome. They're now called ACDS. They just went with the acronym. We called them up because John had gone to preschool there in Plainview. So we called them.
I'm sorry, I interrupt you. I'm sorry. In Plainview?
Yeah,
My son went to school in Plainview. He was
it
at
started in Belmore and then they
Yes,
moved to Plainview.
Rosemary Kennedy. Would they go up to, was that the Rosemary Kennedy School? in
No,
Belmore?
no,
No, different.
ACDS, yeah. So we called them up and said, we'll give you money. But that was the first one we designed and started making on our own. And we heard a funny story from the other side of Michael Smith, who's the head of ACDS, tells the story of Lori, his development director then, came in his office and said, we got this phone call. There were these two guys that want to sell socks and they want to give us money from these socks. What should we do? And he said they sat around in the office trying to figure out, well, how could this go wrong? And then decided, well, okay, tell them yes. And a month later, they got a $3,500 check in the mail. And Michael said, John's my new best friend.
He's my new best friend. I bet $3,500.
So that was the first sock that we designed.
It's so
and it was
great.
him.
Now, I know, help me out here, John, the number 21, what is that special meaning?
The 321 that means it at the month the third month is March, a date is 21st.
Why 21? What's
Why the
that?
number
March
21?
21st. The day is the world.
Right, we know that, but what's 21 referred to?
Oh, I extra chromosome.
Right,
The 21st chromosome, right?
Yes.
right. Everybody's got
Yes,
23
yes,
pairs.
very sharp, very
People
good.
with Down syndrome have an
Yes,
extra
sir.
21st
Yeah.
chromosome.
Now, you know
You got a
what?
little extra in you.
I'm an epilogue.
It's
But-
good, huh? You're sharp. Now, in autism with my son,
Yeah.
the color they use is blue. But I think with Down syndrome folks, they use blue and yellow. Am I
Yes,
correct?
Yes.
yes.
So interesting. So
The
blue-
autism, we have autism awareness socks and products. Autism has proven, I mean, we do a lot to support people with autism. We try to do a lot, right? So we've been able to create 34 jobs. 22 of those are held by people with different abilities. The most common diagnosis, if you will, is autism. We sponsor an Autism Can Do scholarship. We have our autism awareness socks. But autism really is a very broad spectrum.
Extremely broad.
Over here, you have some people who have to be institutionalized
Yes, sir.
because they're banging their head on a wall all day.
That's right.
And over here, you have people that are programming computers from Microsoft and everything in between.
Yes, sir.
So we used, when we started, and share frankly with you, and when we started, we were donating to Autism Speaks. And then we started getting, the only thing I could call it is hate mail, because some people don't like Autism Speaks. And we used the puzzle imagery. And we heard back from people, oh, we don't like that.
Yeah.
Because within that broad spectrum, you have disagreements.
Yes. Yes. That's
so
part of the problem with it.
Now we've made things using, color blue and the infinity symbol, except that's accepted by some, but not recognized by others. It's been very challenging.
You can't please them all. Just to give you a heads up, the Autism Speaks, prior to that, the precursor to Autism Speaks was NAR, the National Alliance of Autism Research. And that was fractured and all over the place. And then they felt they would consolidate it and give it the name Autism Speaks. But once again, it fragmented out into all of these subcultures and subgroups. And
it strikes me that there are two issues. One, we have now seen, working with a number of charity partners, sometimes they don't all play nice.
you're
Because
correct.
in some cases, they're competing for the same dollars.
That's right.
But most of the advocacy organizations, and in fact, probably the social service organizations, all started because some families, some parents got around a kitchen table and said, what are we going to do?
That's right.
And they developed things.
That's right.
But my understanding is Autism Speaks kind of started at a higher level. Somebody wrote a big check. It was the CEO of Warner Brothers. And the other thing, and they no longer say this, but this was one of the issues some people won't forget. In a previous incarnation or earlier version, they spoke about finding a cure for autism. And yet there are people, many people with autism saying, wait a sec, what are you trying to cure? Right. So we've kind of backed away from that, but it's interesting.
I do.
So, you were talking about your son. John faced some of the same issues when he was young. He couldn't talk, and it was a physical thing. So John learned sign language and used an assisted voice device to communicate. And we share that. We now share that with folks when we do a lot of public speaking, because we want people to know, look, when he started off, he couldn't talk. Now he's a public speaker. And in fact,
He's great.
there are some times I can't get him to stop talking.
I never shut up.
So can I interrupt for a minute, please?
Sure.
Hey, John, my wife is fluent in sign language.
Yeah.
And I have a very modest ability to sign, deaf person, and home signs, and thank you, and you're welcome, and the truth, and certain little signs I've acquired. But my wife is fluent. We spent a lot of time with deaf children. As a matter of fact, I was part of the Deaf Club, a Mid-Island deaf community, for about a year. And we were practicing signing.
Wow.
My wife went to college in part for that. And we had several very, very close deaf friends of ours that we socialized with. One of them took karate with me for about 4 years. If I don't mind, I don't want to take this in my direction because this is about your son and your company, but I'll give it to you a very, very fast story. I was teaching in my first 3 or 4 years of martial arts. I was like 25 years old, working for the town, and then go open a little karate club at night. And I had this guy come in whose name was David Riley, who is now in heaven at this point. But at that then, David comes in and he can't speak a word. And he says to me, I want to learn martial arts. And he wants to write everything and ask questions like this. I said, David, I can't teach a class writing to you alone. I got only 25 people here. I said, will you come back here in 1 year? He goes, in a year? I said, come back in a year. And I enrolled in sign language 1 and sign language 2 at Nessa Community College just to teach this one.
Wow.
Wow.
And a year later, he came back and he stayed on with me for 4 years. Wow. I learned so much from him. Yeah, great. Well, if you love him.
Well, here's
know?
another small connection. So last year, we started a sock design contest. In fact, we just kicked off the second one. Well, the winning design last year used the symbol from American Sign Language to say, I love you on the socks.
Sure.
And so the winning, what you got for winning, you got $1,000. We made the socks. So, we say we're going to make your sock famous, but also those are charity socks. So we said to the winner, you get to help us pick the charity. So our charity partner on that is now the Lexington School for the Deaf
in Washington.
in Queens.
Queens. Isn't there one in Washington also?
No, there's Gardelette University is in Washington.
Gardelette, you're right.
It's the Lexington School for the Deaf. That's the largest in New York. That's the Cleary School on Long Island.
Well, the Millneck Manor is also very well.
But that's so now we make these I love you socks in sign language, and they raise money for the Lexington School. So it's very cool.
Oh, you guys are really, really cool. So, can we talk a little bit about your social life, John? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. And again, I'm going to share a story because you probably will identify a little bit with this. I remember my son came home, my son Bobby, and he was around 19, I guess. In his high school program, they had what they called super seniors. They could go on past 18. They could extend for a little longer stay in high school if we wanted to.
Yeah, you can stay in school till you turn 21. John did the same thing.
Yeah. So my son comes home and he's sitting on the couch and he's crying. And I'm like, oh God, what happened? Did someone hurt him? And I was, I'm very protective like you are with your son, So he says, Daddy, no one will eat lunch with me. No one wants me. No one wants to talk to me. I'm all alone. I thought I got shot in the chest. I would just broke my heart, And I looked at him and I held him. I said, Bobby, you are loved more than you can imagine. And people that love you will take care of this. You'll see it's going to happen for you. About a year later, he got involved with hockey, roller hockey. And he got involved with a team. And I'm like going, oh my God, he's going to get killed. He's going to get killed. And he didn't get killed. He played hockey for years. He still plays every once in a while. Then he said, I want to get my driver's license so I can go out in the world. Now, I said, driver's license, Robert, oh my God, you're going to give me a heart attack here. I said, all right, he's never going to pass the test. There's no way he'll pass this road test. No way. It'll take years for him to pass this road test. He passed the road test on his very first try. I'm like, oh no. So now I had to get him a car. He's been driving now for 12 years. He's never had one ticket.
Wow.
Unlike his father, who's had like 3 tickets.
Right. Well, that's because
Right.
because he has autism, he's probably very good at following the
No,
rules.
he follows the rules. And next thing I know, he goes on to a what do you call it? Like a dating site, right? Which I'm very dubious of. And I don't trust dating sites a lot, John. I'm very, very careful for my son. And he met this beautiful young lady who happens to live in the same town. She's in banking. And I was thinking, is he gonna, get married and all that? And they've been together now for 8 years. So now, I don't know, John, have you ever had a young lady, a friend of yours? Have you gone out with somebody?
You have a girlfriend?
I do.
You
have,
do.
oh, here it comes now.
Oh, he's got a girlfriend.
Can you share her name?
Yes, her name is Stephanie.
How good, and could you tell me a little about her? Is she around your age?
No, she's 27.
She's a year older. So
year
she's
older.
around your age.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're 26. And is she in the Down syndrome community, or is she in something else?
No.
No, she doesn't have Down syndrome, but you went to school together.
Yeah, we did.
You've known each other a long time, right?
Right.
And you've been dating off and on. We do a podcast now. What's the name of the podcast?
The Spread Happiness Podcast.
The Spread and Happiness Podcast. And one of the regular features is John gives an update on his love life, because some weeks they're on, some weeks they're off, but it seems to be more on now, right?
Yeah.
Because Stephanie told you better get in line.
If she wear your socks, she better wear your socks.
Well, she's worked here,
Oh, she.
which, creates, some HR policy issues,
Understood.
right? She can't report to John.
No.
No,
Who
and
did you
on
report
work.
to? Just to your dad?
No, she reports,
To the bosses in the back?
she has worked as one of our sock wranglers in our warehouse. So she reports to our Lord of the Socks.
Right.
The Lord of the.
Can't directly report to me. But it was very important that when Stephanie came here, sat down with John and Stephanie, it was like, all right, no drama. Because there can always be drama.
Yeah.
Stephanie and her friends and you like the drama.
John, I asked my son, Bobby, I said, if you could get rid of your autism, would you? He said, no. He said, I know who I am. I love who I am. Do I have my challenges? I do. But I like very much who I am. And that's the impression I have with you, young man. You seem very content, very happy as you are. Do you feel good like that?
I do.
I could see it in your face.
But part of it is he doesn't know any different.
Yes.
This is just who he is. And I know that's the way we've always treated you.
Right.
He's not my son with Down syndrome. He's my third son.
Yes, of course, of course.
It's,
What's a little different, Mark and John, this is a little different. In the autistic spectrum, which we discussed a few minutes ago, the appearance is very, very unnoticeable. There's no standout stuff. With respect, there's a little characteristics with these young people,
Yep.
So people can identify them at distance and say, okay, this is a certain situation, right?
We used to think about that. My wife in particular,
Yeah.
John was young, and she would say, we're lucky because he has Down syndrome as opposed to autism, because
That's
you
right.
can see.
That's right.
But, philosophically, and I've thought about this a lot, and it is similar to autism. Down syndrome is a syndrome. It's not one thing.
Yes.
For any of our children, if we could cure an illness, if we could make something better, we would.
Of course.
And we did that with John. People with Down syndrome are frequently born with very significant medical issues.
Yes, correct.
So John, on the third day of life, needed intestinal bypass surgery. Before he was 3 months old, he had open heart surgery to fix 2 holes in his heart. Of course, we did that. But if you came to me and said, we have some procedure, we're going to take the Down syndrome out of John, then he wouldn't be John.
That's right.
This is who he is.
That's right.
And it's part of what we get to do. We get to show what's possible. We get to show what people with different abilities can do. And look at all John can do. Who leads a better life?
I want to move in with you. Adopt me.
And there is no, in our family, if you look from the outside, I've got 3 sons, and you would say, oh, Down syndrome is the challenge you have. Well, let me tell you, my wife and my middle son both suffer from pretty chronic depression. My middle son, on top of that, anxiety.
Oh, boy.
Let me tell you something. Down syndrome, that's nothing. Depression, anxiety, that's hard.
It is very hard.
But that doesn't show on the outside, and it's not an obvious thing.
So it's a hidden dark.
But it's also part of. Look what your son. Look at the life he leads. Look at the life John leads.
Well, I think a lot of it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think a lot of it is the parenting, the support system. I give tremendous compliments to my son's teachers, the community that became very close to us and him. All of that is the inclusiveness is extremely important.
It sounds like we've both been very fortunate. I know John went through the Huntington public school system. He didn't have a bad teacher. And we always work with the teachers as if we're part of a team.
That's the key.
And learning, but I'm sure you heard this after your son was diagnosed. We heard it when John was born. Oh, God only gives a burden to those who can handle it.
Oh, boy.
Right? You'd hear that, and it's like, well, first of all, it's not a burden.
There's no burden.
This is my son.
That's right.
Second of all, you have it backwards. John's not fortunate because he has us.
We're fortunate to have him.
John has made us, I dare say, I've just met you, that your son, Bobby, has made you a better man, because I know John has made me a better person.
I'm telling you, you're going to get me crying here. That is so true. And, despite my son's struggles, despite the challenges, the frustrations, all of it, his courage and his stamina, his fortitude, his loving compassion, like we're just watching here, it just opened up our whole family. It just blew open a hole that we never thought would even be in our world. And it just filled us with this love. It's unbelievable.
It's the things that matter. I make reference sometimes. There's an educational theorist named Robert, now I'm going blank on his last name, but he has the theory of multiple intelligences. So we measure 2 in schools. We measure an analytical and a verbal intelligence, but we have a physical intelligence. Michael Jordan was a physical genius. We have a social intelligence. We have a management intelligence. And he would do profiles using bar charts. You'd be strong here and weaker there.
Yes.
I think of John here, of having like 400 distinct intelligences. And some of them he's very challenged on. Like John can't do abstract math.
Right.
But some of them, he's off the charts. Some of them, I wish his older brothers, had his abilities.
I have to echo in on this for a minute. My son, Bob, loves hockey. I shared about hockey. He loves football. He follows politics. If I said to my son, who was the coach for the New Jersey Devils in 1997? Right like that. Ask him to add 15 and 30. He needs he can't put it together. And I asked him, I said, Bobby, you have such an amazing, I mean, almost like a savant level of memory. He remembers what he ate for breakfast like 4 years ago. I don't know how the hell he does it, but if you ask him certain things, he just goes flatline. And he said, I can't do that. I said, why can't you transfer it? He goes, I just can't.
Right. It's just
It's like
the one thing we've learned with John and John Kids about with me. He doesn't do abstract generalizations.
Yes.
So math, John will tell you, math's one of his favorite subjects in school, but he's got to have it tangibly.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
I talk a lot in stories and metaphors and similes. John will tell you, Dad, metaphors don't work for me. I could be talking to him about, well, this is kind of like the Special Olympics and you're training for a race. And Dad, we're not talking about the Special Olympics. We're talking about this over here.
Right. So we get literal a little bit.
Right. But things like kindness, empathy,
Compassion.
organization, ability to just be on time, ability to work with other people, off the charts.
I understand fully. Would you mind? I don't mean to interrupt you again.
Yeah.
Hey, John, do you ever play any sports? Do you like to run? Do you like basketball, soccer?
I'm very active. I play Winter Olympics. I play basketball Monday nights, Tuesday night track and field. On Saturday morning, I play soccer, and on Sunday morning I play a snowshoe.
He races in snowshoe. So yeah, you were very active.
You're a pretty busy guy. Holy.
Last weekend, where were you?
Last weekend I went up to New York, to Ithaca.
Ithaca.
But what were you up there for?
I went out for Winter Olympics, Summer State Games.
The state games.
They used to have them, the Empire State Special at Nassau Community College. I went there for.
Yeah, they've done Empire State Games, and for the Special Olympics, they do regional events, and then they have the state games.
Yeah, I've been to them. They're great.
But you do that, plus you're a Met fan and a Jet fan.
Yes, I am.
What does that mean?
I'm not gonna be suffering.
You know how to suffer.
I'll tell you about the Jets real quick. I'll give you another. I have all these little side stories. John, you'll know this. I'm sorry, Mark, you'll know this, but John probably won't remember. There was a band when we were young. They were called the Turtles.
Yeah, Flo and Eddie.
Yes, right? The bass guitarist, his name is Jimmy Pons, P-O-N-S. Unbeknownst to me, he shows up when I'm teaching at the karate with all these special ed. I had over 100 special needs children. We had like 10 classes a week. It was like a whole industry unto itself. And he came in with his son, David, who was on the spectrum. His wife, her name is Pat. She's a pediatric specialist in special needs children, right? They now moved to Florida, but he was the bass guitarist for the Turtles, right? So I said, well, you're not with that band anymore. What do you do now? And he says, well, I'm the head videographer for the New York Jets. I videotape all their games. So I said, really? He says, yeah, we're doing fundraisers for autism. Are you in? I said, am I in? I'm all in. And we wound up doing bowl-a-thons and all of this. And we raised a bunch of money. And he said, I want you to come to meet the Jet players. And I wound up having several of the Jet players go bowling with me. And we have a big history with the Jets. So I am, like you guys, a long time suffering Jet fan.
But this year.
Yeah.
This year's going to be great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Right. So I love the Jets. They're my team, but it's kind of tough to watch. I'm also a huge New York Islander hockey fan. I don't know if you guys are you Ranger fans or hockey fans?
We're not particularly hockey fans, but our allegiances go to the Islanders, right?
Yeah.
Scott Mayfield came out here and visited us. And his wife worked with us for a while.
Oh, my brother, who's now in heaven, was very, very close friends with Clark Gillies, who's also moved along. And he knew Mike Bossy, who's moved along. And Bob Nystrom came to my daughter's wedding, my brother's daughter's wedding. So we were still friendly with the Islander people. And my brother was also, since you mentioned the Mets, he was very good friends with Bobby Valentine.
Oh, okay.
The guy that was the manager of the Mets.
Yeah.
He knew them. He knew a lot of these guys. My brother was involved with athletics quite a bit, and we had a chance to meet him. So we're very common. The Mets, the Islanders, the whole bit. But the Jets are my heartbreak. Oy, oy, oy.
John is like a cranky old man.
You're not kidding.
He's sitting there. Things are going well, but something goes wrong. He starts yelling at the TV. Says, turn the sound off. I can't stand these guys. I don't want to listen.
Now, John, do you have any, other than the sock stuff, which is I'm taking up all your time, or a lot of it anyway, do you have a personal hobby, something you like to do when you're just by yourself and hanging out and reading a book, watching TV? Do you like to sing? Do you play music?
I love singing. I love dancing.
Good for you. What kind of dancing do you like? You like just rock dancing, or?
What type of dance do you do? You do your own thing, don't you?
I do a hip hop dance.
But John likes to dancing so much. He hosts a weekly dance party, an online dance party, right? During the pandemic, right? So this comes back to what we do with our business. What's our mission?
Spreading happiness.
Spreading happiness. So the pandemic comes along, shuts everything down, isolate people. How can we spread happiness? Well, one of the ways is John started an online dance party to bring people together online once a week to dance. So some weeks, most weeks we get like 15, 20 people, but every once in a while we've had 100 people show up.
Wow. Is that still going on now?
Still going on now, every Tuesday at 3:00.
And how do people find out about that?
We tell folks, and you can connect to our website.
Right to the website.
We do it at Zoom, so you just have to get the Zoom link.
So what a full life. And because of John's fullness, Mark, you're pulled right into it, boy, like a tidal wave, huh? Father and son.
I'm John's driver, and I'm having the time of my life, right?
Isn't it great?
My wife has been working with us, and now she's finally talking, saying, I think I'm going to retire. And John said, well, that's okay. But he told me, not you, pal. You can't retire. And what have you been telling me you're going to do?
You're going to work to the bone.
He's going to work me to the bone. But listen, Robert, we're so fortunate to get to do what we do.
I know.
It's there's nothing better. We've done things that we've testified twice before Congress, and we didn't have to be subpoenaed. We've spoken at the United Nations, in August. For the second time, we're going up to Hyannisport because the Kennedy family has invited us up to speak to the Joseph P. Kennedy Foundation, which is the
big with Down syndrome. My memory is
right. Well, right. Rose Kennedy, right? And
yeah, of course.
So first time we did it was last August. We meet in the morning at the Hyannis Yacht Club. We have a business meeting and present. And then what do they say to us? Well, okay, what are you doing now? Let's go sailing. So I'm now sailing with Tim Shriver, the two of us with Tim Shriver and Max Kennedy out in Nantucket Bay. And I'm thinking, I wish my parents could see this. This Irish Catholic boy up sailing with the Kennedys.
Oh my God.
We get things like that.
It's all a blessing.
We've had a lot of media coverage, but the best thing is just seeing what happens here. Giving jobs to people who couldn't get other jobs. There's nothing better than the holiday season when we're very busy and the place is just filled with people working. It's like Santa's workshop. When we hire somebody, most of our folks with different abilities have never had another job. So we have a little ceremony to present them with their first paycheck. And they get a business card, and that's magic.
Oh my God.
Right? That's
sir. Yes, sir.
Magic.
Yes, sir. When I saw my son get his first hockey award, and or when they have, the community people standing up and applauding for these beautiful children. There's nothing, it's nothing sweeter. It's just, I call it a gift of grace. People ask me, isn't it, like we mentioned before, isn't it hard? I said, oh, it's not hard. It's love itself. I mean, there's no effort when you love, right? I mean, there's challenges, but when you really love, and you feel it, right?
And we talk to a lot of businesses, a lot of people, and we walk through what we do, and I say, now watch.
Yeah.
There's no rocket science here.
No.
Everything we do is pretty common sense.
Pretty common sense.
And, the way we view it, certainly the way I view it is, we've been given this opportunity, and now it creates an obligation for us. It creates an obligation for us to make use of that, with the business.
Yes.
We made a big promise to people. We've made a promise. You could run a social enterprise, have both a social and a business purpose. You could build a business on love. You can build a business hiring people with different abilities. So now we have to keep proving that. The ability we have that elected officials will listen to us, will come and visit.
Right.
We have to make sure we take advantage of that.
Full advantage of that.
John will tell you, right? We're on a mission to spread happiness. And what are the keys to happiness?
It's gratitude and do for others.
Gratitude and do for others.
That's correct. That's right.
The more we do for others, the better off we are.
There was a man that said, that which you do for the least of my brethren, you do unto me. That's my boss. That's my boss.
Yeah.
And, that's who I work for, so to speak. And I just am in awe. Now, are there any secret socks coming out that I should be aware of, that I should be looking for? Is there a special design that you guys come up with? A hockey sock or a New York Jets sock?
Well, we have lots of new things coming out.
Okay, well, let's get
We do have a police tribute sock that's going to be coming out later.
Very good. My father was a retired New York City police officer. My whole family comes out of law enforcement. My son-in-law works in East New York in the 75th precinct.
Okay.
So when those socks get ready to pop, we'll grab some, because that's right up our alley.
We always have new things. Here's something that might interest you. We got a couple of little projects coming up. One, we're going to have a fashion show at the Whitman Mall, at the Walt Whitman Mall, on Saturday, October 8th. And all of the models will have a differing ability, because we want to show a different side of beauty. So they're going to be our employees or people from the Special Olympics. So we're going to do that. We are also starting a program called JCS Champions. And what we want to do is put people with differing abilities into their own business that they and their families can run together. And the idea is we'll give them socks and everything they need so they can go and have a micro business. They can sell our socks at a craft fair or farmer's market or a flea market.
Sure.
Maybe a store in town. We're going to provide a 6-week training program. And when you complete that, we're going to give you a business in a box. We're going to give you selling stands. We're going to give you inventory and signs so you can have your own business. So our intentions are to enroll the first 5 people for October. But over 5 years, we want to create 1,000 businesses all across the US and just light this up of
what a blessing.
What's possible.
You guys are great. You guys are great. Well, before we finish this up, if that's okay, I wanted to know if you have anything you'd like to share with everybody, to tell them anything.
What's your advice for people?
Yeah, my advice, follow your heart, follow your dreams, work hard, and so you can do.
So you can do, huh?
God bless you.
Very cool, buddy.
Hey, gentlemen, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with this guy. I've learned so much. Oh, before I knew I was going to say something, I forgot. You had mentioned the fashion show. Victoria's Secret's new female model that just came out. Did you see it? It's a Down syndrome young lady.
There you go.
I just put it on my page yesterday. had nothing to do with our time together.
Uh-huh.
But that's part of my persona. I'm always posting about Down syndrome or CP or autism. But she just came out. I think she's European, but she's well appointed. But the headline is first, Victoria's Secret chooses first Down syndrome woman to be their model. If you
Yeah,
get
there are more and more places that are recognizing.
they should.
Yes.
Long enough, overdue. Overdue. John, it's been a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, John. And Mark, God bless you and continue this great work for you and your family. And
Well, first, congratulations to you and to Bobby for his upcoming marriage. That's
thanks.
wonderful.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing your stories about the things you have done.
But we're two dads, when we have our sons that we love. What's better conversation than that?
If there's something that we can do for you, you please let us know, and we will do
very
that.
fine. And it goes back to you as well. But this was just awesome. I mean, you made my whole. Forget it. I'm just so honored to meet your son and to meet your dad, John. Your dad's a great guy, right?
Well,
He is.
so Robert, I have to share with you. We hear often. Oh, John, you're such an inspiration. So let me tell you about your inspiration. We'll be driving, and he's sitting in the passenger seat. So what's that? 6 inches away from me. And he'll text me, Dad, I just farted. That's your inspiration.
Well, God bless you both. I wish you peace and all good things, John. America's looking up to you guys, man. It's great. It's a privilege to meet you both.
Thank you so much.
God bless you both.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.